how the seeding is going to go in the playoffs. So we'll start with the AFC, and there's two favorites in the AFC, and that's the 11-2 New England Patriots and the 10-2 Denver Broncos. A Broncos with a win this week would basically be tied at 11-2. While these two teams do not play each other head to head, the Broncos will have a strength of schedule tiebreaker, just having a more difficult schedule than the Patriots. If the two teams were to tie with the same record, maybe it's 14-3, they're both 13-4, whatever the case may be, the Broncos would have the 1 seed. So looking at the rest of the season, Gaston, Patriots and Broncos both vying for the 1 seed. What are these two teams? Which one is going to end up with the 1 seed?
I think it's going to be New England. I think they're a better team. I think it's funny. This past week, you had two teams play teams who are very depleted. I thought the Patriots looked a lot better against the Giants than the Broncos did against the Commanders. And I think the Broncos also hardly beat the Giants earlier this season. I just think the defenses for both teams are good right now, but I think the offense is much better in New England. I think New England's going to be the number 1 seed. That doesn't mean it's going to translate to the playoffs, and I think they're a Super Bowl, or they're going to be in the AFC Championship. But I do think they'll be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think, and this isn't biased because I feel like I'm very like anti-biased, and a lot of people think that I'm pessimistic towards the Patriots. But if you look at the remaining schedule, so the Patriots get a bye this week, very much needed, whereas the Broncos, they facing the Raiders, so I guess not a very hard game, but after that they face the Packers, Jaguars, Chiefs, and Chargers, 4 teams that are all currently in the playoff situation. That is a completely different schedule. Whereas, the Patriots, like I mentioned, they get that bye week, and then their 4 remaining games, they do face the Bills and the Ravens, but then after that, they face the Jets and the Dolphins. So I think just based off looking at the schedule and the way the Patriots have been playing, getting some extra rest, and just the toughness instilled in them, the belief, how young they are, and really buying into that culture. I do think the Patriots will probably finish 1 game ahead of the Broncos, get that first round bye, get the number 1 seed, and then we'll face probably either the Steelers or Ravens, whoever wins that division, maybe even the Bengals, or whoever the 5 wild card is facing that 4 or 5 seed. So I really just do think that based on how the schedule looks and the way the teams have been playing, that the Patriots will finish not having to face a juggernaut at the end of the year like the Denver Broncos schedule is shaping up to be. But on the other side, in the NFC, it's a little bit closer, you could say. So the Bears sit at 9-3, and the Rams also sit at 9-3. The Seahawks also sit at 9-3. The Rams have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks for now, playing the 1 game head to head, getting the win over the Seahawks, and the Bears simply have the 1 seed over the Rams just from a strength of schedule, like mentioned. So a lot closer. In this instance, you have 3 teams that are 9-3, and then you have a team at 8-3-1 and a team at 9-4. So, looking at the NFC, who do you think is going to get the 1 seed? Is it going to be your Bears, Gaston?
I don't think it will. I think they'll probably be 2nd or 3rd. I think it's going to be the Rams. I think they have a much favorable schedule. They play the Lions, Cardinals, Falcons. Cardinals twice. I think those are much more winnable games. Whereas the Bears, I think they're going to split against the Packers. And I don't know. I think they'll beat the Lions, but I do think the Rams are going to be in that number 1 seed.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the Rams have just shown their ability to – I'm not saying they're blowing out opponents, good opponents, but they have what it takes to win close games against good teams. And I think that's very different from winning close games against bad teams or all teams. People want to dog on them for saying, yeah, you only beat the Seahawks by, 3 points, and that, Sam Darnold had 4 picks, but that is irrelevant. I think they're just so well balanced. Matthew Stafford, I know he's coming off a rough game, but has had a phenomenal season. They're getting the max contributions they are from their players, and they do have a very young and skilled team. I think if the defensive side of the ball can hold up the way they've been playing, this team is going to be the number one seed. And I really think that by the end of the season, they might be tied with another team, but they'll have that tiebreaker based on their strength of schedule. And I don't think it's going to be the Bears in that case. So I think that they win the division, which I think they're going to do. They will be the number one seed. And I think, yeah, the Rams are just so well balanced on both sides of the ball. And, they're head coached by Sean McVay. I think this team's going to be the number one seed when it comes to January and February football. So we've talked about the wild card watch. We talked about who we think is going to be the number one seed. But I want you to pick one team in the AFC, your sleeper team, your Cinderella, if you want to call it, for the AFC. Who is that team?
I think for the AFC, I would say the Chiefs, but I think that's a boring answer. So normally I'd say the Chiefs, so I'm going to go with the Texans. I think they're a really sneaky team. I think they have a chance to make some noise and really squeak into the playoffs. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but I do think they're a good team. And for the NFC, I think a team that could really make things very interesting is going to be the Panthers.
The Panthers. You want to elaborate on that?
I think they're sneaky. I don't think they're – because that's what you're defined by Cinderella, right? You're not referring to like a team that's like a high quality – necessarily like a high quality team, but a team that you think could sneak in there and make some noise.
Exactly.
I think that kind of fits the Panthers very well. I mean, they beat the Rams really good last week. And Bryce Young is starting to string together some really good performances. He set a franchise passing record 2 weeks ago. And along with that game, and then he had that game against the Rams. I think out of all the teams in that division, in that conference, I think they're my best pick for a sleeper team.
Yeah, I mean, on the AFC, I think you hit the nail on the head. I would pick the Chiefs. It is kind of boring or whatever, but I mean, this team I think is going to go on a run here at the end of the season, finish out 10-7, sneak in the playoffs, and make some noise. Has a real potential to win the Super Bowl. But also the Texans. If the Texans can wake up on the offensive side of the ball, if CJ Stroud can get the ball out quickly before the O-line disintegrates before him, like Thanos snapped his thumbs, I think they got a real potential to make some noise and, make it to the AFC Championship. But on the NFC side of the ball, I will defer from you. And I think the San Francisco 49ers have a real potential to go all the way to the NFC Championship. And you might be saying, oh, and this team's 9-4. How are they a sleeper? This team's third in their division, okay? If they don't win some of these head-to-head matchups in the last final weeks, they're going to have to play from a wildcard team. They're going to have to play on the road in the playoffs. And like we mentioned, there's so many good teams in the NFC. They're going to have to pull it out. But I really think with Shanahan, with Saleh on the defense, and with Brock Purdy, starting to kind of come back, George Kittle when he gets healthy, the receiving room when it gets healthy, Jawan Jennings, when these guys are at their best, when they're healthy, when Christian McCaffrey is getting the rock 25 times a game, this is a team that has the potential to win the Super Bowl. This is a team that is very well coached. This is a team that when Brock Purdy doesn't turn the ball over, they win almost every game. And that's why I think that they're going to be a sleeper and a real potential threat to win the Super Bowl. So I'm telling you, that is a good bet to lock in. This is something that people aren't thinking about, but I'm telling you, the 49ers come back in a few weeks. This is going to be a team that is a real viable threat for a Super Bowl. But